everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Victoria Huff. I am the founder and CEO of the Happy Executive. And welcome to Built to Be Heard. Whether you're here live or you're listening to the recording, I am delighted that you're here. I like to spend some time with you weekly and also like to have wonderful guests on from time to time. So please do DM me if you are interested in joining me live to talk about what it means to you to be heard, to be seen, and to earning more revenue and recognition. I would love to hear your thoughts and your insights on that. So, today, what I'd like to do is share a belief, a thought that really held me back for several years. And I'm thinking that it's one that you may be able to relate to as well. Now, you know, we're taught a lot of times from a very young age that if we keep our heads down, right? Maybe we don't rock the boat, which you've heard me speak about that before, then we will be recognized, for doing good work, if we're doing all those things, right? Well, sometimes that does happen. But being able to get that to happen on a consistent basis is very, very difficult. Okay. Because sometimes what I found, whether you're in corporate or whether you're in the entrepreneurial, the startup or mid stage business, whatever stage business, if people don't really know what you're asking for or what you're looking to achieve, meaning from where you are to where you want to be, then, chances are they're not going to read your mind. And chances are they're not going to just come and say, I'd like to invest in that. Like if you're opening up a funding round, if it's not publicized with the right people in the right rooms, then you may not get those results that you're looking for. And it can be as simple as a promotion if you're in corporate. Yes, I remember the corporate days, and I remember how we wrote, input for our performance appraisals. However, if we did not keep those goals top of mind to us and the right people in the right rooms, then chances are we weren't going to achieve those goals. And it's the same if you're a CEO or founder or director level of a business, right? We need to keep those goals top of mind, not just internally with our team, but we need to make sure that we keep those out in the open, like talking about getting new clients, talking about the projects that you're working on. And I think that's really important because when I started with AT&T, I was in a brand new division. It was a startup division, and it was up to me to create the results if I wanted to be able to transfer over to the network side of the business. Because my first sales job with outside sales job with AT&T was selling business systems. However, we did not have a pipeline because we were a brand new startup. So what I did was I started a networking group. I went around, and there was no charge for this networking group. It wasn't like, fee based. It was just, we paid with our time, and we really tried to make sure that every week when we met at Denny's that we brought some leads. Sometimes it was just one lead, okay? But sometimes, we'd come with like 3 or 4 leads for different people of the group. And I did my research. I really wanted to make sure we had a well-rounded community there. So I'm not going to go through the whole list because we had about 18 people when when I had left the group, retired from the leader of the group and moved to a different state. But I was really super careful, and obviously I was looking to attract business leaders exclusive in the real estate, in the commercial space, in the services space and so on, right? So, I mean, there was no one else that was selling telephone systems. There was no one else besides our commercial real estate broker, and same with insurance and all those of those other specialties. But what I figured out was, okay, that was a strong network, right? But then from that network, I needed to make sure that I built a predictable pipeline for the businesses and services that I was selling with AT&T. Those are two separate things. And I think that if you're new in, scaling or growing a business, maybe you haven't been in sales, and marketing before, obviously marketing and sales work together. But that's not what we're going to be talking about today. I want to make sure that you're super clear about the difference between a network and a pipeline. Okay. Because they are definitely not the same thing, and they both have to be built intentionally. That's super important. So, a network that you build will provide you with fulfilling relationships. Absolutely, they have to be nurtured, but your network will provide you with fulfilling relationships. Okay. Your pipeline gives you the predictability and the sustainability, if you do it the right way, to avoid the peaks and valleys in your business, right? And if you've been following me for a while, you know that I recommend that you end up building up to 5 to 7 different revenue streams that can include brand brand sponsorships, that can include newsletters, that can include other types of partnerships besides the services and the offerings that your company brings into this world. So I think that's super important. So what you need to really remember is that your network, even if it is very robust, maybe you have 100,000 people, 100,000 followers, however, that is definitely exclusive from the pipeline that you should be building. And I know, like I said, that this belief held me back for several years. And we work with many clients who realize that they have not built a predictable pipeline, who realize they don't really know how to build a pipeline. And that's okay. Like, you are not expected to know everything. I want you to know that the best thing you can do is focus on your areas of specialties and then know who to go to when you have these gaps, when you identify these gaps. Okay. So when you have conversations happening within your network, because you should always be inviting new people into your network, other people should be inviting you into their network. You see how that goes, because it's like the ripple effect. And to me, that's really what being heard really means. Okay. Because if you're in the right rooms, if you're in the right network, then you are going to be heard by those people. Now, I realize there are different size networks, different size groups. We had like 18 people in the first networking group that I was in, and that was really comfortable because we were able to get to know all of our specialties, and from a business and personal level, we knew about what we did outside of work. We knew about our hobbies, and a lot of us became friends besides just business associates. So it was a wonderful thing. But to me, building your network is really what you're doing. You want to be heard, and you want others to be heard by you. Okay. So then when and then when you're looking at, what does getting seen mean? Well, like we've talked about, getting seen is really showing up to serve, right? Because we want people in your network to see you as the go-to person, right? And you are the person that is seeking to serve the right people in the right rooms, because we're not here to build a pipeline of just anybody that shows up, right? There are certain specialties that you are known for, that your company is known for, and that is the lane that you need to stay in. Even if you are industry agnostic, okay, you still need to be known for that one thing. Make sure that you're established in the category of one. People have written books about this. It's a very basic concept, but it's not easy to achieve. Okay, not easy to achieve. So, what I'm going to ask you today is, when we're talking about building a network and building a pipeline, if you could make sure that one message was heard by all the people in the world that you serve, what would that be? Because if you start with that message, you will be able to build out a journey for your prospects, for your clients. And in that journey exercise, right, you will be able to clearly identify who would be the right people to recruit into your pipeline. Because everyone that we speak to and everyone that we get introduced to is not going to be someone that we help. They will be tagged by, different categories. Some people may be fans, some people may be spectators, some people may be on the sidelines. And yes, some people, that small percentage, will become your clients, right? Or perhaps in your network, sometimes maybe you're looking for services, so you may become their clients, right? But everyone we meet is not your ideal prospect, and everyone we meet should not be pitched, because we need to make sure that we do the pre-qualification stages, and we are talking and working with the right people that we should be serving. Okay, so I know many of you have heard this before, but I think it's an important reminder when we talk about these beliefs that, have held us back. Just building a business on referrals is not sustainable. And I learned that myself when I was in the caregiving business. Even though I was getting referrals from my church and I was getting referrals from people that I knew, it wasn't enough. It wasn't sustainable because I never knew when the referrals were coming in. I always liked to look at the referrals as bonuses, right? I loved that. I felt like that was the best way, because then I wasn't counting on them. Now, years ago, it may have been the case that you could build a sustainable business on referrals, but not in today's world. It's not possible, and it's too risky. So remember, if you're looking for predictability, then you want to be able to build the pipeline with the right people so that you can have a sustainable business, right? And that's also going to serve you well if you are looking to transition that business to another owner, right? You want to have that strong pipeline, that strong mix of clients and strong mix of payers, so that your business will be very attractive to buyers or investors. Okay. So I'm going to leave you with that question again. If there was one message that could be heard by everyone that you would like to serve in the world, what would that one message be? Okay. Please, if you're not driving, write that down. Think about that or speak that into your phone, because it's super important that, if maybe you thought you didn't need to build a pipeline, or maybe you thought it would automatically happen, this is a question that you really need to ask yourself. And of course, there are tools that we can help you with on how to build that pipeline, but the first step is really just acknowledging that you want to build that pipeline, that you need to build the pipeline, and that the timing is right. Okay. So understand that all of the work and the wonderful things that you've done in the world, they do matter to people. Your reputation matters, right? I don't want to have you perceive that I'm like downplaying that, right? Because the good things that you've done in the world, they matter. Now, taking it a step further, and saying, okay, I've built that excellent reputation. But now I need to build a sustainable pipeline so that the doors will remain open, right? The doors, meaning the doors of inviting new people in. That's super, super important in today's world because we cannot build a business simply on referrals. So, thank you for being here today. I really want to say that the world that we live in is wonderful. And it's amazing to me that we can connect all over the world with people just with a Wi-Fi connection. We can message people. It's just a wonderful, wonderful time. So until next time, please remember that you were built to be heard. And I want you to know that your message matters and what you're doing in the world matters. It's just a matter of you getting in front of the right people in the right rooms so that they know that you exist and what you could do for the right people really, is significant to them. And, don't stay quiet about it because the fact is that one person out there may be really seeking what it is you can help them with. And it's not going to serve them if we stay quiet. Okay. So hopefully you either spoke that question that I asked you into your phone, or if you weren't driving, you wrote it down. And I'd love to hear your answers. So DM me your answers and let me know what that one message is for you. Take care, everyone.